Folks, good morning. Welcome to our September 29th, 2022 version of the Transportation Lean Forum webinar for our Transportation Lean Forum community of practice. We appreciate everybody who's participating, and we have an exciting agenda for you today. Becca, if you could go to the next slide, please. Our production team today includes Rebekah Roux, Riley Weisler, and Stephen Barela. Thanks, folks, for helping produce our exciting session today. Next. Our TLF webinars are recorded, and you can visit those at any time. Contact the presenters. We'll put that on the Transportation Lean Forum's Lean Interchange website later today, or certainly within 4 weeks of today. Occasionally, it requires some additional editing to get it to a size and shape to fit on our website. And you can go and visit our website for any of the prior recordings. We have recordings from the past decade. A lot of wonderful information that has been shared through the community of practice during that decade. Next. Just like anything that's virtual, we do ask you to mute your phone or your microphone, except during times when we will be asking questions. There is a chat pane. We're glad to pick up questions for the presenters through the chat pane. Presenters will have presentations for about 20 minutes, and then each of those presenters will have a time for questions and answers too. We encourage you to unmute during those times or send those into the chat pane, and we will read those out for you on your behalf. Next. And of course, when you do ask questions, please do remember to unmute yourself and when you do ask those questions or put them in the chat pane. Next. Very often, VPN, virtual private networks, provide terrific services. However, during webinars, they can provide difficulties with connection. We encourage you to turn off your webinar or your VPN during the webinar to provide a good connection for yourself. Next. The agenda is very exciting. We have Missouri Department of Transportation and Nebraska Department of Transportation providing keynote presentations. And after a few other items, we'll also go to our open forum, questions and answers for the presenters for sure, but actually any topic that you want to bring up to get the pulse from the rest of the members of the community. And during that time, we encourage you to brag a bit. Your successes on innovation and improvement in your Department of Transportation or your other agencies that you work for, your successes are often somebody else's current challenge, and they can learn from your successes. So questions and topics certainly during that open forum, but also take a time to tell us about some of the successes you've been having. And then, of course, we'll close out. It's 9 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time where I am in Denver. We'll close out by 10:45 this morning Mountain Daylight Time. Next. Briefly, our community of practice is to provide that community for transportation agencies, very often at the state or ministry level, but also anybody else who wants to share and support each other regarding the practice of lean and continuous improvement in public service. Next. And of course, we always take inspiration from lots of different places. The great Charles Kettering once stated that a problem well stated is a problem half solved. And that's part and parcel of our continuous improvement efforts in the various transportation agencies and other public service organizations we all represent. Next. And there are TLF members from across the United States, Canada, and into Europe also. So I encourage you to put into the chat pane where you are tuning in from today. And we'll collect that and, of course, make that part of the permanent record. I see Washington, D.C. already. That's great, Ting. Please, folks, please add that into the chat pane. Next. And you can actually use QR codes. We have QR codes scattered throughout other parts of the presentation today. You can make sure you're signed in by using this QR code, and of course we will be recording this also. That QR code takes you directly to the website for the Transportation Lien Forum. We call that website Lien Interchange. Next. And on that Lien Interchange, we actually have recordings from the various other webinars, including the July 2022 webinar. And thanks for the folks that were participating on that and provided provided keynote presentations during that time. Next. And we also have previous TLF newsletters out on that same website. Next. If you do have any technology challenges, I encourage you to put that into the chat pane. Rebekah Roux and Stephen Barela will be picking those up. Additionally, you can use the email addresses that you see there, rebekah.roux@state.co.us or Stephen Barela at stephen.barela@state.co.us. Next. And utilize that the wonderful items off of our Zoom technology. You can certainly clap for presentations, and it's noted in the reactions that you will have in your bottom bar. Next. All right, first up, Kelly Backues from the Missouri Department of Transportation. This is an applause line, and I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Well, good morning. I want to thank you first up for your interest in Modot's Innovations Challenge program. I have worked with the program since 2011, and I've been the statewide coordinator for 5 years. So today I'm going to share with you some details about the competition, as well as our implementation strategies. I will also share a few of our top innovations throughout the years and have a couple of videos to show you. Next slide. So our innovations program was born out of an employee idea system in 2005, but it was clunky and it didn't move us forward any to shared goals or implementation at all. So after a few years of struggling to kind of evaluate the innovations and push things out, some technical experts got together and formed Modot's Tool and Equipment Challenge, and that was back in 2007. And the competition the first showcase was held in 2007. In 2012, we re-looked at things and decided we need to expand the program throughout the district or throughout the state, not just focusing on tools and equipment and maintenance type of innovations. So we added 2 categories and we rebranded it as Modot's Innovations Challenge. Since the inception of the program, we've had over 2,000 innovations being considered to go to showcase, and over 800 innovations have competed in the 16 showcases. So over the years, we refine, enhance the program, but the one thing that always remains constant.
Go look on our tax returns. It's under dependence. If you want to bring it to me, I can show you where it is.
Hey folks, please remember to mute yourselves until we get to the question and answer session. Kelly, please take it away.
Okay. Over the years, as I was saying, we have refined and enhanced the program, but the one thing that always remains constant every year is the creativity and the ingenuity of our Modot employees. Next slide. So the driving forces behind this program are not just me. So we have local coordinators throughout the state, and they do an awesome job promoting the competition year-round, and they help deliver a successful program. So we have lead coordinators in each of our 7 districts, and there are 3 coordinators in central office. Their responsibilities are for collecting the submissions. They develop a team of experts to do some reviews, and they lead the effort in choosing their 18 first round winners. So we have 18 winners in each district and then 18 first round in central office. The coordinators also determine who goes to showcase. They have a long evaluation, and out of the 144 first round winners, they determine 60 to go to showcase each year. Next slide. So our innovation challenge, we have 3 categories. Oh, go back 1 slide. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's okay. My bad. I will go on to that one. Keep going. Slide. Next slide. Thank you. My bad. I did forget to ask you to go to the next slide before. Okay, so our three categories are tool and equipment, and these are the tools that are modified or basically handcrafted by our maintenance employees. Second category is productivity, and these are any kind of changing processes or materials and products. For example, like developing new software that saves time and resources. The last one is our innovative projects. They're driven by transportation needs and by management. For example, these are diverging diamond intersections, roundabouts, and that type of thing. Those things that really improve our highway system. Next slide. Each year, our entries are evaluated on originality. So how new is it to MoDOT? Safety, how does it improve safety of our employees and the public? Also internal, external performances. So how much does it really improve our productivity and our customer service? And the last is conserving resources. Basically, how much money and time does it save? Next slide. Our competition kicks off September 1st each year, and entries are accepted through the end of the year. In the first round, after December 1, first round is in competition. So we have 18 winners, as I mentioned before, in each district and 18 in central office. The first round winners receive up to $75. We do have a maximum of $450 per team because you can have a actual team of innovators. So what they win is determined on the size of their team. So the second round involves all challenge coordinators, and they take a look at, as I mentioned before, 144 innovations, and they determine which will be going to showcase. Next slide. Our annual showcase is held in a large expo center. And after a few hours of setup, which is quite a big production of setup, the judging takes place on the first day. A group of judges get together, each by category, and they listen to all the presentations from the participants. Then they rate their top 6. Next slide. So our current program bestows 16 awards. We award top 4 in each category. We have 3 Directors Awards for Safety, Service, and Stability, and then the coveted Dixon People's Choice Award. Next slide. So showcase earnings. So all of our category winners, no matter if you're first, second, third, or fourth, you win up to $425 per person, or a maximum of $1,550 per team. The first and second round finishers in each category also receive $10,000 into their operating budget. And the third and fourth place winners receive $1,000 for their operating budgets. Now, this money can be used to either, create more of that innovation or develop that innovation further, or anything that's really going to enhance their workplace and make their jobs more efficient.
Last time I heard, no internet.
Oh, I forgot about the internet problem. Really? Huh, okay. I don't care.
Yeah.
Hi, folks. There's somebody. Hey, folks, could I jump in? This is Gary. We're right in the middle of the presentation from Missouri DOT. Somebody's muted. Could you remute yourself? All right, Lindsay, please, Kelly, please continue.
Okay. So we were talking about the amounts given for at the Showcase Luncheon Award Ceremony. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is a picture of what Showcase Day looks like. And these participants spend many hours working on their displays and getting ready for their presentations and practicing their pitches. They have lots of materials also to showcase at the Showcase Day. Our expo room is, as you can see here, it's kind of like a science fair with a bunch of exhibits. They range from, like tabletop demonstrations with laptops and posters, all the way up to extra heavy duty trucks and mowers and snowplow trucks. Next slide. So on the second day of Showcase, we have hundreds of employees that come from all areas of the state and from different areas within the department. They attend the Showcase. Each year I hear from not only all of the participants, but all the visitors are just overwhelmed with how much they can interact with everybody. They can talk one-on-one with the innovators. And it's just such a warm and welcoming environment that's different than any other, annual meeting that we may have. So on the second day, as I mentioned, that is when our awards ceremony is held. Next slide. So on this slide, we are going to take a look at, it's a brief video. It's from our 2018 Showcase. Can everyone else hear that? Because I'm not hearing it.
No sound as of yet.
Okay. Okay, sorry, 1 second.
Actually, what we have today is an integrated vehicle debris removal system. We affectionately call it JAWS because, unfortunately, back in 2004, we had one of our co-workers who was picking up some debris on the roadway, and she violently lost her life while trying to retrieve the debris in a lane of traffic. As a result, we came up with this truck where we call it JAWS, Julie's Automated Waste Removal System. Basically, it's a joystick inside. There's like a clamshell that drops down. We have a forward-facing camera. You can actually see the debris as you come up to it, and you can push the debris out of the road without having to put your feet on the pavement. It keeps us safe, and we only need this one truck to make it happen, whereas in years past, we would need 2 TMAs and maybe 1 or 2 other trucks to get the debris out of the road.
But the idea here is that a good idea on the floor in there is worthless unless we put it into action. So the challenge that I have for every one of you today is for those things that you saw, make sure that you take the opportunity to bring those back to where you work, and let's get those things put into place so we get the benefit out of them. That's the key. And then we can work on making them better and doing all those things that we do. But, the idea on the floor that stays on the floor really doesn't help us. So the challenge is take those ideas, put them into practice, and let's continue to get better, okay?
Okay, so on the next slide. Oh. Okay, I'll share with you real quickly a couple of our top innovations. So this is a winner from 2017, and it is the truck-mounted attenuator flagger. Modot's TMA flagger was the first of its kind in the nation. The innovation is a truck-mounted attenuator that's modified from the safety of the cab. It allows the driver to remotely operate the stop slow paddle and the digital message, and also the air horn from like I said, the safety of the cab. The innovator's goal was to allow controlling traffic without using the employee on the highway. Next slide. Our maintenance division here in central office oversees the day-to-day operations of maintaining our state's highway system. So there are approximately 3,000 maintenance employees performing obviously a variety of work throughout the year and to make our transportation system run smoothly. In 2016, the executive management committed to building a custom web application that would be designed specifically for our maintenance staff, boots on the ground people. So phase 1 of MMS went live in 2019. It provides the department, it's an application that you use for efficiently and more user-friendly and to improve data accuracy. The maintenance staff can go into their laptop, there's kiosk, cell phone, where they can quickly enter all the information and the work that they had done that day. Recently, this program was enhanced and it now contains work plans and some budget features. Next slide. So this is one of this year's, our latest showcase winners in the tool and equipment category, and it's called Blade Saver. This is a handcrafted tool and a measuring device that checks the wear and tear of the carbide blades. It's a simple innovation that saves money, that allows the blade to be used to its full extent and eliminates the number of blades. And I think the reason behind this is if you measure from the outer part of a blade, it gets more wear and tear, but the inner side, the middle of the blade is still in good condition. So it also helps from keeping the employees from crawling on the ground to do all that measuring. So next up is another video, and this is from this year's showcase. It is a bit longer, but it's very exciting.
Oh.
My name is Andrew Turner. I'm roadside manager with Southeast District, and the innovation we have here is our rotating herbicide rack. We needed to be able to transport our pre-mixed slurries in an upright and sealed position, but then whenever we get out to the job site, be able to quickly and easily access those. So we came up with this rack so that we don't have to handle the herbicide near as often, and it keeps it up and out of the way for us. So whenever we get to the job site, we're able to pull 2 pins, and the whole assembly will rotate down. Then we're able to easily go up and in the same fashion as the soda machine, dispense out whatever premix herbicide to transfer over into our spray rigs.
You're beautiful, bride.
It's allowed the south intersection for that left turn movement to about 141 to be pushed to the north side of the intersection.
Kelly, if you wouldn't mind
To
muting.
occur at the same time as the westbound Missouri 364 left turn movement to southbound 141. As part of this job, we needed to construct a retaining wall between the western abutment of the bridge over 141 and the southbound lanes of 141.
It's the displaced left turn lane, and that's our innovation. And basically what that does is it takes that eastbound to northbound left turn movement, it has it go, builds a new contraflow lane to go the wrong direction, if you will, up to this north intersection. And then at this intersection, both left turn movements at the interchange will happen at this north intersection. And what that does is that removes that left at the south intersection. So now the only time that northbound 141 will have to stop is when southbound to eastbound left is being made.
Innovation Showcase is an option that we have readily available to anybody to view. So Modot has been hosting an in-person showcase for 15 years. And during COVID, that wasn't an option. So we wanted to find a way to best show the innovations we've been working on. So on Modot's external website, we have all the innovations from last year and this year out there. So that includes a video, a short write-up, and contact information. So if you see another district or division that has information that you find interesting, you're able to go out and view it. So it's easily searchable, it has all the information out there, and not just anybody can go view it. It's not just people who are invited to showcase. You can be from another division or DOT or an external person to come and view it. So it's easily accessible and user-friendly.
Our employee is adding oil, and you can see right there he could have spilt it all over himself, and holding it up over your head is really not safe either. You can't tell how much oil is in there, and it's really tough straining, reaching up trying to clean the windshield. He can really only get a little bit of it, and without climbing up on the tire, have a hard time reaching it. So we come up with this tire steps. Snug it on the tire, has a railing right there you can use for 3 points of contact, climb up, and you can also climb up on the tire too. Right there, the oil can is eye level, so he can see and make sure it's level and see how much oil is in there. He's also able to reach the middle of the windshield to clean it.
Okay, so in the next few slides, go ahead, go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about the importance of implementation. So as you heard Ed Hassinger, our chief engineer, speak in the, I think it's 2018 video, it's, why even have an innovation program if we are not going to push it out throughout the state? So historically, an implementation plan has been a struggle for us to put into place because not all areas are the same in Missouri, obviously in other states as well, with rural and urban type of locations. So it's not a one size fits all whenever it comes to implementing innovations. We've had best practices database since the beginning of the program, which you can find on our website, and it houses information on all the innovations that have been approved as a best practice. So, but even here at our department, that large database has just not been enough to get things pushed out. So in the last couple of years, we've developed a few implementation plans to get our innovations into practice. Next slide. Our latest push is featuring an innovation each week in our Modot Weekly News. The weekly news publication is disseminated statewide via email, and it's also projected on large screens in all of our maintenance sheds. So they provide a photo of the innovation along with a description and the innovator's name. There's a QR code on the slide that will take the user directly to the detailed handout we created for the showcase. Next slide. This is our most robust implementation tactic, and it's called Modot's Innovation Store. In 2019, our executive leadership decided to provide funding every year to create approved tool and equipment innovations so that all these great ideas can be put into place and action throughout the state in an effort to save lives and reduce injuries. So after technical reviews for safety and compliance are done, some of the maintenance type of innovations are approved to be made available in our statewide purchasing store. These are dedicated funds, like I said, that management has set aside strictly for innovation. The program and the funding for implementation is handled through the maintenance division here in central office. So last year, the division developed a user-friendly app, which you'll see on this slide, and it makes the purchases of the innovation very easy, very user-friendly. It allows the user to go look at the handouts, and they can also view videos of the innovation, and they can choose the innovations they would like to purchase. It also tracks the the allocated funds and which district does the ordering, actually down to the sheds. Next slide. So recently we developed a plan for implementing our non-maintenance type innovations. So our program delivery innovations are just as critical. These are those highway fixes that are needed to keep our roads running safely. So the implementation responsibility for those types of innovations now resides with the Modot central office divisions that they are related to, such as design or construction materials divisions. And they are the ones that will be pushing the innovations throughout the state, through the districts. So our admin and support innovations are just as important. It improves our efficiencies and processes. So the implementation responsibility for those types of innovations now resides with the division or the district that actually submitted the innovation. So lastly, in the works, we are developing a performance measure for MoDOT's tracker. Most people have heard of MoDOT's tracker. If you haven't, go out to our website and take a look. It's our performance management tool. So once this new measure is developed, it is going to track the number of innovations that we've put into place statewide, and we'll be able to drill down to the districts to hold them accountable for their implementation. Next slide. So here's our websites. If you'd like to take a deeper look at our innovations and the showcases, we have two sites. So the one on the left, it will take you to the best practices and you'll be able to see the videos. So just scan that QR code or we can get you the websites if needed. The slide or the code on the left it will take you to, oh, I think I said those incorrectly, one on the left, on the right. So anyway, go to our websites. We have a lot of descriptions, the innovator name. There's going to be a lot of information out there. It's a very, very slick website. Next slide. So in closing, I just want to say the success of our program is simply due to encouraging employees to be creative. Management focuses on making employees think outside the box, and it's important to show off innovations. And some people are shy in doing so, but it's very encouraged. Throughout the year, we never let the subject of innovation go to the wayside. We have a very dedicated, not only executive team, but also our commissioners. And so we all know that without implementation, we will not get better. So with that, thank you for your time this morning. If you'd like more information, my contact information is there on the slide. I have numerous program materials that I would be willing to share with you. So thank you, and I'll take some questions later.
Actually, Kelly, we've got time for a few questions now.
Okay.
And of course, we will additionally have time during open forum. There was a note in the chat pane that said terrific videos, so I want to pass that along to you. Do folks have questions right now? If so, unmute or raise hand. Caitlin from TechStop, you have a question.
Thank you. This was a fantastic presentation, Kelly. I find this just really inspiring. And I have a question kind of about how these ideas get off the ground. So if an employee in a district has an idea, do they need to contract with a third party, build a prototype, kind of prove its efficiency and effectiveness before they then submit it? Are there people who kind of help them translate ideas to reality? Or how does it work when people just have ideas initially?
So as far as ideas, this program is designed for innovations that have been implemented. They are in the works in the district. And obviously, and I don't have my hands in the district competitions, but anytime there's a new tool created, there is a stringent program to go through as far as safety. If there's anything roadway related, the TMAs and different things that you would use next to the highway, those do go through more stringent review and have to go through the MUTCD crash-worthy type or crash testing type of thing. So as far as getting them to the point of the competition, all of that work has to be done before then they qualify to even enter the competition. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, great. I don't see anything else in the chat pane. Anybody else want to unmute? Questions, thoughts, comments? Karen Miller from Missouri. Go ahead. Karen, can you unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to talk, I work with Missouri DOT, and so talk from the other perspective of having one innovations challenge in various forms in the various stages. So a lot of times you do something and I'm not like the tool and equipment kind, this is process is productivity. So a lot of times you do something, you don't even think about it. The innovations come, the due date comes around and then a coworker or supervisor or somebody says, hey, that was a great idea that you did last year. Why don't you submit that? And it's like, oh, didn't even think about it, because it is encouraged as part of your mentality and part of your process. And so a lot of these, you know, with the districts and with the guys that are out on the road, it is very ingrained in their mentality to do this because we have done it for so long. But with the expansion of it, of the productivity and the other categories, it's really helped get that into people's heads that are sitting behind the desks, supporting those people that are on the road, because that's our primary work. And so it's been really encouraging. I mean, I've won at various levels, probably 3 or 4 different times, and I never would have thought to do it if someone else hadn't encouraged me to submit it. And I work with Kelly every day, so.
Oh, that's a wonderful testimonial, Karen. Appreciate that. Maybe time for one more question before we move on to the next presentation. And of course, Kelly, I hope you can stay around for the open forum. Might be more questions there. Anybody? All right, Kelly, thank you. Oh, we do have just one quick question. Lily, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, this is Lily Oliver from Massachusetts DOT, and thank you, Kelly, very much for this excellent presentation. It's really exciting to hear, you know, Missouri DOT is pushing ahead all front. And I feel like oftentimes my greatest challenge is to make people, like, you know, you're soliciting ideas, people basically willing to put effort, put information together to submit to you, to tell you all the innovations happening in different fields, maintenance, design, construction processes. Do you believe that the award, you know, the monetary award is a big incentive for people to do so? Where is that part of funding come from? Where does it come from?
Okay, so the actual awards, the monetary awards we give away after showcase or at the award luncheon, those dollars, the $425 that I mentioned per team, those monies do come from the district or division where that employee or the innovators are located. The budget increases, the $10,000 for first and second places, the $1,000 for third and fourth place. There's a separate pot of money that management has set aside for those budget dollars.
Thank you very much. I think that's very helpful for people to, you know, this have to be some kind of pool for people to willing to put that effort, despite they're doing all the exciting things to apply for it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Lily, thanks for that question from Massachusetts. Kelly, I encourage you to stay around. Becca, let's proceed with presentation by Rachel Kilcoin from Nebraska Department of Transportation. Rachel, take it away.
Thank you, Gary. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, sure can. You're coming through loud and clear.
All right. Thank you. So good morning. I am Rachel Kilcoin. I am a process improvement coordinator for the Nebraska Department of Transportation. I've been doing this work for DOT for about 2 years now. I'm super excited to be here today to tell you about one of my favorite projects that had some pretty incredible results. It's all about property acquisition, and I'll say it also happened to win an award at our recent Innovation Challenge. Next slide. So we all buy land, and whether we're looking to build new roads or expand existing roads or building more infrastructure for ourselves, for our agency, we frequently have to go out and purchase land from private sellers to make it state land. So I'm here to talk about some of the challenges our Nebraska right-of-way team had when they acquire that land and getting those deeds recorded. So we started with something that probably looks familiar, somewhat familiar to a lot of you, a charter. First, we identified our problem, that the current process was labor intensive and taking too long to get documents finalized. We then set the scope of work to begin when the agent submits the completed tract documents and finishes when our file clerk scans the documents and uploads them into our database. Lastly, we outlined what we hope to accomplish. The obvious things: reducing rework and our lead time. And lead time to us in Nebraska means the beginning to end, all the work time and the delays, just the entire time it's taken to get through that of our scope of work. Gary, I think you mentioned something about in your intro that a problem well stated is a problem half solved. And we definitely walked in thinking we had a solution in our back pocket. But as we went through this process, we discovered it was only half the problem and only half the solution. Next slide. A little background. Why was this initiative prioritized? We had a lot of frustration getting deeds recorded. The old process was labor intensive and had a lot of delays. It was a very manual, paper heavy process. We were still requiring wet signatures on everything, which also required everything be printed and scanned. And once that was done, we put this huge packet in the USPS mail to go to the county, and we sent it certified mail nonetheless. Frequently enough, it got rejected by the county, and we learned, and we would learn that when it made its way back through the postal system, starting the whole process over. We did this on average. We processed an average of 461 deeds, titles a year, at a minimum cost of $7 to certify mail them to the county, and at least another $7 if we had to start over again. Every time it came back, every time it went back, it was another $7 or more, depending on the size of the packet. The timing of this was really significant. The file clerk who did the bulk of the work was retiring. We've all had subject matter experts who are resistant to change and fight learning and implementing a new process. But it was vital to capture her years of knowledge doing this and all of the nuances that she knew before she left. So we made an agreement with her, and we timed it so that we would design the new process, but we wouldn't implement it until she left. And so it would be the new person that hired in her place that would have to implement the new process. Her knowing that she didn't have to implement the new system made her much more eager to help and was very transparent about what was actually going on. Next slide. So outside of the obvious time delays, mailing it, sitting at the county, getting it sent back, we had other challenges we hoped to mitigate in the process. Often when we are buying land for a road expansion, we have a lot of landowners we have to get on board. And if not all of them want to sell the land. Once we reach an agreement, it's literally a race to get that deed recorded before they turn around and sell it to somebody else, someone who might be even more reluctant to sell. If that new buyer beats us to the county office to record the deed, we had to start negotiations over. And it was happening, not a ton, but enough that it was causing significant issues. And most importantly, all of these delays pushed off the actual work we were trying to do. Next slide. So typically here in Nebraska at the RDOT, our continuous improvement team utilizes Kaizen events. I put a team together and I stick them in a room with me for about 3.5 days. The team here consisted of our subject matter expert, the file clerk, her supervisor. We had somebody upstream in accounting. We had somebody downstream, and we had a couple of outsiders. Here you see our current map. We outlined 67 steps. And after we have got all of our steps outlined, you'll see those little sticky dots on there. I challenge everybody to find what they think are wastes. And where you see a lot of them they're all piled up. That means there's a lot of agreement on this is waste. We also then go into identifying our value-added steps as well as our business value-added steps, ones that are required by regulation or law. Sometimes we go into interesting rabbit holes with things people believe are business value and are required. But when we get into asking, show me where, this is actually required, where does it say you have to do this? It gets interesting. And wet signatures is actually a prime example on this project. We put out calls even to our legal team to verify that digital signatures were enough. And in fact, some of the documents we were signing didn't require a signature at all. We also identified 2 significant places of rework and 8 handoffs. And 8 handoffs, even though the bulk of the work was being done by one person. Next slide. So as we dissected the root cause of the reworks, we utilized the 5 whys. Why are deeds getting returned for corrections? Documents weren't getting notarized properly, or legal descriptions on what we were submitting didn't exactly match the county records. That gets rejected. So then we ask, why are the notaries incorrect? Well, our people aren't trained well and they don't know the laws. Why don't our people know the laws and why aren't they trained? Well, there's a lack of training and a high turnover. I always feel like the 5 whys, I feel like I'm a toddler, like why? But so then we ask, why aren't we training? And it all boiled down to time constraints, resources, and honestly, lack of priority. So we came out of that knowing what we really need to fix is that priority and that, why the root cause of why these were getting rejected by the county. And that gave us a better idea of how to fix it and how to focus. Next slide. One of my favorite tools to use when teams get stuck on how to move forward is reverse brainstorming. Using reverse brainstorming is usually a fun tool, and it helps people who don't think of themselves as creative come up with good ideas. We started reverse brainstorming by posing the question, how could we possibly make this process worse? When I teach this tool to a group, I like to give some wild examples. So previously I worked for the Department of Corrections, and I tell them, imagine we're trying to improve dinner service. How could we make it, but in reverse brainstorming, how could we make it worse? And they come up with easy ideas of like, well, maybe there's only 2 trays, or maybe we don't cook the food. So you get the idea, they get the idea. So on this one, we're like, how could we make this process work? And you'll see on here some of these, like Tom Weber's name is on here, and he's our right-of-way supervisor. They say he has to approve every step. Or how about we send the bills to the wrong county? How about we hand deliver the deeds? Let's not even sign the notaries. Tom personally picks up the check. For some reason, the supervisor always gets picked on in these and has to do everything. Sadly, when we reviewed what everybody put up on the board, we noticed some of these things actually were occurring to some degree. So where do we go from here? What was the purpose of this exercise? Once you see how ridiculous some of these things are, it's easy to know how to fix them. And so we talk about how to prevent these issues from popping up. And the result calls out a number of inefficiencies in the actual process and also helps us see where we need to focus our attention in solutions. Next slide. So once we brainstormed our solutions, I had the team plot them on an impact effort matrix. I asked the question, how easy would it be to implement the solution, and what would the impact be on our product? I let the team decide where those should fall. And I think it's covered up in here, but we have a little thing where the smiley face is up there that says, just do it. So we want things in that quadrant. Yes, thank you. But I let them decide where they think those things should go. And as I look back at this, I realized some things we thought would be easier became more challenging, and some things I thought were harder were actually pretty simple. For example, the team thought that e-signatures would be harder to implement. And the reality was we found out everybody had the software to do it, and setting it up took a few minutes. They only had to set it up once and they were ready to run. So that actually was super easy. But other things in here, you know, did become a little bit harder, and it took a little more effort. It took a little more effort to do it, but we decided the impact was enough that we still forged ahead. Next slide. Ultimately, we decided to go with a software solution. It addressed the majority of issues we were having. We knew from some benchmarking coming in that 90 out of 93 of our counties were already using the software. These would get submitted online instantly, eliminating our reliance on the mail system, as well as the cost of certified mail. So I think it was like I said, certified mail was running $7 and up. It was a flat fee of like $2 to submit it. Next slide. Better yet, we only had to pay the submittal fee once. We only had to pay the fees when it was accepted and recorded. So on the off chance the deed was rejected, we didn't have to pay to resubmit it. We met with the software provider during our Kaizen event, and he was able to show us that the average deed was approved and accepted, recorded in 24 hours. We were at 21 days. So we know we're going from 21 days to likely 1 day. We also had not been documenting why deeds were getting rejected, but this software would help log it for us so we could look at that down the road and reevaluate what issues were still persisting. Next slide. We saw other opportunities for improvement along the way as well. Since we were submitting digitally, it also makes sense to move everything digital. We verified that wet signatures were no longer a requirement, and thanks to 2020 and all of the remote work, our staff had the ability to sign documents electronically. The team also saw the benefit of cross-training, so the process wasn't held up when one person in the flow was out of the office. Finally, we set a schedule in place to train and retrain our notaries, which we believed was the main cause of our rejections. Next slide. So here's our future state map. Not stickies, but it's you can tell super cleaner. The team mapped out 20 and we're able to accomplish the same process in 23 steps, down from 67, and we eliminated 5 handoffs. We also found we could reconcile fees to this platform weekly. So, because you know, when you record those county fees, there's the fee to record it, but there's also fees from the software. And so that the fees to record it, we were having to pay that 461 times a year. Through this, we're able to reconcile it weekly. So we went down to 52 times a year that we're reconciling instead of paying each filing fee individually. Huge time savings for our accountant. Next slide. So all this said, we still had some roadblocks. Acquiring the software was our biggest challenge. We needed approval from our state IT team, who needed to verify the security of data being exchanged. On top of that, Nebraska is a sunshine state, which means the majority of information that is shared with us is available on public request. As you can imagine, software providers don't like to provide things that will be out there for their competitors. So we ran into a big hurdle getting past our IT approving them without us signing a non-disclosure agreement. But finally, we eventually got all the lawyers in the room and they were like, oh yeah, we can do this. And things moved forward again. We also had some other issues in the contract regarding how we funded, because we're a state agency. They're mostly working with, realtors and private people. But we fund things a little different because we're a state agency with all of our checks and balances. So when we went to the contract, we had to do some finagling on how we were going to fund and reconcile the accounts. So we were able to get those written in special provisions. We also ran into support issues, as our primary contact that we met with turned out to actually just be a third-party vendor. So once we actually pulled the trigger to purchase, it became harder to get support and to get people to get back to us and help us. So next slide. But eventually we did make it through and got everything up and running, and things are actually running very smoothly now. So one of the benefits that I would say my team lead on this would say was that having somebody in our position, managing this project, pushing through, being persistent, and removing those roadblocks was eventually what made this successful. She said, I don't know how many times, she's like, I would have given up by now. She goes, that's why I don't do this. I would have given up. So in the end, we are now averaging 6 hours beginning to end to record a deed. We went from 21 days to 6 hours. That includes all the staff time to collect the documents, to sign what needs to get signed, and send it to the county, and the county accepting it and returning it, and us putting it back in our system as recorded. Next slide. And now our road work is able to proceed. In this picture, you'll see this was the entire packet that was getting routed. It was getting printed, signed, scanned, and we actually only needed a few of these pages to do this part of the process. And actually through this process, we eliminated not just this one, but 460 more of these packets. And that's it. Any questions?
Rachel, wow, that's terrific. Terrific level of improvement, wonderful effort. There've been a few comments, including from me in the chat pane. Love the reverse brainstorming. Folks, we do have some time for questions for Rachel. If you can't unmute, please put them in the chat pane. And if you have some questions right now for Rachel, go ahead and unmute and go ahead and ask away. And Rachel, you said that this was recognized during the most recent Innovations Challenge style contest. Could you talk a little bit about that? And did you all win or place, or how was that?
We placed. We do like a bracket system where everybody votes, and I think we made it to the final 8. Yeah, we made it to the final 8. We didn't make it to the final 4. But even in the final 8, all of our team members got $100. So and we had a good turnout. So they do this, they do the voting like weeks ahead of time, and then they have the final presentation where they still have live voting and everybody gets a table to show off their innovation. And I will say, I think we had 3 people from our team who showed up to staff that table because they were just so thrilled with it. They were so thrilled with how it just changed how they did this.
Well, that's wonderful for the team to, for sure. if this were basketball, we'd call that the Elite Eight. So you got into the
That's
Elite,
yes.
right?
Got into the Elite Eight. Yep.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
And I think it's a big culture thing for us too, that when you have these wins and you get those champions on those teams that tell everybody else, that, hey, you need to go to process improvement. You need to talk to these guys. It's just great to build those champions out in our divisions.
That's wonderful. Questions for Rachel, this property acquisition improvement or other things related to what they're doing at the Nebraska DOT? All right, I don't see any in the chat pane. I don't see anybody unmuting. I hope you can stick around. We're going to open the open forum in about 3 or 4 minutes, Rachel. All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks again. Becca, next. There are a few quick topics for the open forum that we'd like to cover. The open forum is a place where we can ask our presenters more questions, give comments and things, but also just asking any question to anybody else in the forum or perhaps to the forum generally. And certainly we ask if you have some really good improvements to go ahead and brag on those, because your improvement that you made may actually be somebody's current challenge at their own Department of Transportation or other public service agency. So we got a few topics to cover here. Becca, next. So I'm queuing up a conversation for a future session. We're going to put this on the November agenda for the Transportation Lean Forum. Our AASHTO organization, and not everybody on the call is from the United States, but in the United States, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials is a key industry group. And there is an organizational management subcommittee of the AASHTO Committee on Performance-Based Management, CPBM. You see it actually circled with the broken red line in the bottom. And that organizational management subcommittee chair has just recently changed to me. And we would like to explore some topics with the Transportation Lean Forum here, including the possibility of having a multi-state playoff system, if you will, on innovations. You've heard today from both of our presenters. Kelly Backues from Missouri DOT talked about their longstanding. It's a dozen years now, or perhaps more than a dozen years, Kelly. Their innovations challenge for promoting innovation through this friendly internal competition. You actually heard from Rachel at the end here, a very similar competition in Nebraska. We have one here in Colorado, some other states very similar, and a possibility for doing a multi-state playoff system to try to, first of all, have some friendly competition among states and ministries of transportation in Canada and our friends across the pond in Europe, to get some friendly competition going, but also to potentially provide some additional recognition for folks. So that's coming up for a future discussion. We'll also put a bit more about that in the next Transportation Lean Forum newsletter, and that QR code will actually take you to some information about the Committee on Performance-Based Management and the Organizational Management Subcommittee of that. Next. And this is a quick roll. There are some other services besides the webinars that we have every other month for the Transportation Lean Forum. Our Transportation Lean Forum Lean Interchange website, the name goes back a long ways, even before we changed the name of the forum to Transportation Lean Forum. Back in the day, we had a much longer name, was hard to remember. But we came up with the Lean Interchange as the name for the website. It features a lot of different things, including recordings of prior webinars. You see the one highlighted there from July. Our September one will be there too. Newsletters, and actually lots of information provided by member organizations on different topics that are available for anybody to use and download. So I encourage you to go to our Lean Interchange website. Again, that's the website address, and the QR code will take you to the same place on your phone. Becca, next. Transportation Lean Forum newsletter also is put out each month. We highlight things from various DOTs and ministries of transportation also, and we'd be glad to highlight your materials. Please send information to me, and we'd be glad to include that in the next newsletter. Next. There's also a repository on the Transportation Lean Forum's YouTube channel of the recordings of all of our prior presentations, and I encourage you to visit there. Next. And finally, we are at the open forum session here. You see the presenter contacts there. Again, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Rachel. This is a place you can, first of all, ask them more questions. That'd be a wonderful thing. You can share your successes. Again, your success might be somebody's current challenge and might actually help that person shave some time off of their own development of improvements in a particular area. If you have additional questions you want to toss out to the forum for anybody to ask, answer, that's a great thing too. In the chat pane, we've provided the links that we just talked about a moment ago, as well as those two email addresses for Kelly and for Rachel. Again, thanks folks for those wonderful presentations. And this is time for open forum. So what's the topics you want to cover? Unmute if you can, and we can address all of that. Or if you can't unmute for some reason, put that in the chat pane and one of us will read out that. All right, what do you want to talk about?
Thanks for the opportunity, Gary. This is Amanda Frank from Pennsylvania. I'm with PennDOT. And one of the things we're considering here at PennDOT is updating our employee suggestion system. We have a longstanding system that we've updated at least once along the way. It was initially developed back in 2011. We updated it in 2016. So it's definitely time to give it a refresh. As we're looking to do that, we really would like to ask the other agencies, what are some of the things that you're doing in your employee suggestion system so that maybe we can steal some of your best practices and implement them in ours.
Terrific topic to cover, Amanda. Appreciate that from your question from PennDOT. I'll start off and then I'll actually ask other folks to chip in. At CDOT, we have what's called Lean Everyday Ideas. It's our implementation of Kaizen. And we have a website where we ask folks to let us know about the things they've improved, and we can help spread that across the state. Just like many of your DOTs, we have folks scattered across the state, but many of them are doing the very similar functions. We have 200 maintenance patrols, for instance. They all pretty much do the same thing, some on the plains, some on the mountains, so there is some differences, but pretty much the same functions. So an improvement at one maintenance patrol, for instance, is great, but if we can get it to the other 200, that's 200 times great. So we have a channel that we call the iFixit channel on our webpage where people can tell us about that. We found across the years that people were giving us those implemented improvements, but also suggestions or problems, things they couldn't solve on their own, but that they wanted to actually do something about. And those are suggestions. So we have an iSuggest channel too, where we collect those. And then we act as brokers behind the scene to connect those suggestors with somebody, typically in a central staff, by the way, that can do something about that. So we actually have a way of collecting those and in a process that we have documented for actually matchmaking, if you will. Matchmaking, getting the suggester together with somebody that can do something about that. And that can very often turn into a wonderful improvement. Anyways, that's what we're doing at Colorado Department of Transportation. Open it up to other folks. Go ahead and unmute or put something in the chat pane around Amanda's question.
Hey, Gary, this is Kelly Backues again at Modot. I'm going to paste what we have available at Modot that is very similar. We actually call it the Employee Advisory Council. And I'm going to paste in there just the description. I've never served on the council, but it works out very well. And they have direct contact with our senior management team. It's just worked out really, really well. So I'm going to just go ahead and paste this into the chat.
That's wonderful. I appreciate that. The Employee Advisory Council sounds like a great thing underway that could help in a lot of places. And I see that Kelly pasted that in. That's wonderful. All right, other folks, what is your agency doing or thinking about doing in this area of suggestions that might benefit Amanda and, of course, other folks in our forum community? Anybody else want to tackle that one?
This is Lindsay in Nebraska. I don't think we have one at the DOT. I think the state as a whole might be running some system, but I don't have anything to offer on that.
All right, well, thanks, Lindsay, appreciate that. Other folks, suggestion systems or something similar? All right, well, let's keep that as an open topic. And if other folks want to unmute or put something in the chat pane a bit later, that's great. We do have some time for some additional topics, things that are on your mind, and of course, sharing successes you might have from your agency. So who's up next? Who wants to go next? Any other topics you want to cover today? Any other topics? So one more call. Any other topics for our open forum today that you'd like to cover? Going?
Hi,
Going?
Gary.
Yes. Hi, Lindsay.
This is Marcia Tope from Iowa.
Oh, hi, Marcia.
I was just going to throw out there, whether this is today or sometime in the future, if anybody for training, for getting staff to become familiar with the lean methodology, does anybody use specific training companies, or has everybody kind of built their own training internally?
Great question. And sure would love to hear from various folks. Here in Colorado, we've been building our own, although we are planning to borrow. It was a wonderful opportunity provided to us. We're going to borrow from Denver Peak Academy. City and County of Denver has been a process using lean process improvement for a long time, and they have offered to us, and I think it may be available to other folks too, to take their materials essentially for free. They're saying, hey, we're all in the public space. So if you're another public agency, glad to have you do that. Of course, their materials are very Denver specific. So we are going to have an effort underway to make it a bit more specific to our agency. But everything else we've done has been pretty much home built. But we'd love to hear from other folks. I know that other agencies in the forum have training efforts underway. So we'd love to hear what folks might have for Marcia. In the chat pane, Lindsay says it's internal. Appreciate that. At TxDOT, Caitlin is saying in the chat pane, they've also built their own. And PennDOT, same thing. Amanda saying internal training as well. Anybody else want to weigh in for March's question there from Iowa? All right, I'm not hearing anything else. Marcia, hopefully that's helpful. And let's keep that as an open topic too, as we forge forward. Appreciate that question. Other questions, other thoughts, other topics you want to bring up, other things that you want to share about your successes in your states or provinces or other agencies. Going? All right, at least for today, sold. Appreciate that. We've got a few other things just very briefly. Becca, if you go next. We are doing a bit of cross-selling. Transportation Lean Forum is a community of practice for folks that are applying lean and continuous improvement principles in transportation agencies. There are some similar related communities. There is a public sector change practitioners community of practice called PSCP, really focused at the practice of change management, the people side of improvement and innovation. Any place in the public sector, have had a number of wonderful presentations during the several years that the community's been around, from the United States, from Canada, from Africa. I remember a few presentations from there. Really across the world, folks interested in the people side of improvement and innovation. The next public sector change practitioners webinar is coming up in October 2022. The QR code there, if you scan that, you can find out more, get more information about that. All right, next. Our next forum is some forum webinar will be in November. We'll have a few TLF newsletters between now and then. We'll post those along with the video from this presentation to the Transportation Lean Forum's Lean Interchange website. And we are always looking for folks that want to be keynote presenters. It's always wonderful to have the full community, and always great to have presentations like today's presentation from the Missouri DOT and the Nebraska DOT to let us know the state of the art that's out there, and to encourage our own thinking about the places we go next to help all of our colleagues in public service become more effective, efficient, and customer focused. So if you are interested, contact me or scan that QR code. That'll take you to a Google form where you can present your ideas for a presentation. We would love to have you and feature your efforts from your agency in future sessions. All right, next. And again, we want to close on a thought from other folks. It's always great to consider the thoughts of these wonderful thought leaders across history. The wonderful Albert Einstein, of course, Nobel Prize winner, and a former refugee, by the way, had this wonderful quote: "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." A great thought for everybody that's involved in innovation and improvement, particularly here in the public sector. Next. And on behalf of everybody in the community, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the production team today for helping us have a great session, and particularly thank you to Kelly and thank you to Rachel for these wonderful keynote presentations. Please be expecting the Transportation Lean Forum newsletter soon. We're always glad to feature what you have, so send me information that you might have on that, and we will send you the invite for the November Transportation Lean Forum webinar very soon too. Thank you for your kind notes from everybody, and let's log off for now. Thanks, folks.